And good evening. How y'all doing out there? Good to see a bunch of y'all already out there waiting for the show to get started. Having early birds is always a good thing. Give a couple shout outs to some of our regulars. We got Dark out there and Safety Doc and Night Strike and Putang and a bunch of other folks out there. And without further ado, let's kick this show off. And welcome. Let's welcome the guests to the show. First off, we got Garrett, the distributed.
Howdy.
We got Xander, aka Kron, to everybody on the interweb.
Hey, everybody.
We got the co-host of the Mostest, Flying Rich.
How's it going?
And we got Edgar with Guns for Everyone.
Yo.
And then, of course, everybody knows St. Vinro, Jordan with JSD. He's a little busy right now. So, yeah, how y'all doing?
Okay.
Doing awesome. Still recovering from the weekend, to be perfectly honest. I woke up thinking...
Yeah, you didn't do anything. What are you talking about? You didn't compete.
No, I wish I had competed, honestly. It looked like everybody was having a blast, but even just hanging out with everybody, just being there is fun. So I can't complain.
Yeah, same thing I was just telling Garrett that I actually ended up with a little bit of a sore foot injury from the long drive and stuff, but it's all worth it and clearing up now. At least I didn't have a whole lot to do after we got back till now.
That's why you need a self-driving car.
Yeah, well, not all of us is that fancy, and unfortunately, the comma don't work with no Fords, and I'm not going to give up the 45 miles a gallon.
Well, I keep telling Xander he needs a comma AI for his car.
One day I'll be that fancy.
What I can tell you, do not let your first experience of it be in the back seat. Talk about biting nails and stuff. Hey, Jordan. Jordan's back.
Hey, what's going on?
So yeah, I guess yeah, we can hear you good now.
All
now
right.
that you made it in.
Yeah, sorry. Crump called. I got to answer the phone when John Crump calls.
Hey, the grand champ of journalism, you know. When he calls, you pick up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look who's calling me.
So yeah, while you take that call, we'll go ahead and go around the room and let y'all talk a little bit about who you are and what you do for the folks out there that aren't familiar, and then we'll get things kicked off with the main topics of tonight's show. And starting with you, Garrett, we'll just go ahead and go clockwise or whatever order it is on here.
Yeah, sounds good. So I'm Garrett. I'm the lead software developer at Defense Distributed. We did sponsor the recent Makers match, and I was lucky enough to attend as a competitor as well, which was quite a lot of fun.
Awesome. And we'll go ahead and move on over to Xander next.
Well, for today's purposes, I help organize the volunteers for the Gunmakers match. In my off time, I help with the Are We Cool Yet crew with testing and a little bit of dev stuff and all that fun stuff.
Awesome. And then with that, we'll kick it over to Edgar.
If you don't know who I am, Guns for Everyone's been running in Colorado since 2010. Instructed nearly 100,000 students now for free here in the state of Colorado, looking to expand. A couple years back, we started Guns for Everyone National, which is an organization that certifies firearms instructors, and then we also hold firearms competition. One of them being the gun makers match. So yeah, that's the Cliff Notes version of that.
Awesome. And yeah, talking about the gun makers match, for those of y'all that are new out there, it's a shooting competition that's just for folks that make their own guns, whether that be kit builds from 80% or 3D printed or, what have you. The first requirement to do it is that you built the gun, and the whole purpose of that is trying to get the word out and give some positive publicity showing that, hey, this is, it's a hobby that has been American since before there was an America. It's not just something that criminals do. It's not sketchy. A lot of the stuff might be kind of like shadowy or staying to themselves online, but that don't mean that it's anything suspicious or whatever. And so doing things like the gun makers match, this was the second national match, and Edgar can correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's been 2 or 3 regional matches in between.
Yeah, three of them.
Yeah, so that would be like 5 total now, and it from what I've seen, I've been to the both matches, national matches. I haven't been to the regional ones, but it seems like everything is kind of growing a little bit better and better as it keeps going, which is what we hope for. And doing the shows like this, getting the word out, and talking about it is the whole point of it. The more people find out about it and see, hey, this ain't something we're afraid to talk about, it's not something you should be afraid to talk about, it's perfectly okay, then that's how we can fight the stigma that has been put on it.
Absolutely. And that's kind of I mean, you said it all, so we could just close the show right there.
Just call it a night.
But yeah, absolutely, that's exactly why we do it.
Yeah, well, then we got the show out the way. Now it's just a hangout.
But you didn't let Jordan introduce himself.
Yeah,
That's
Jordan,
right.
you was busy, so yeah, we'll go ahead and give you your 5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, Jordan, JSD Supply, as I'm sure everybody knows. We sponsored again this year Makers Match, and like I've said 100 times, it's the most fun. As 2A 3D Prints likes to correct my grammar, it is the most fun industry event that we do, at least for the past 2 years, and hopefully long into the future. So, we're out here trying to help educate, the masses on home building and your legal rights to do that, and just helping get those parts into everybody's hands.
Awesome, yeah, and that's the one thing for the gun grabber folks, so to say, is trying to make the most difficult is access to the stuff to be able to build things yourself. And one of the things that's been really accessible for especially new folks getting into the building your own guns hobby has been 80% frames and stuff like that. And now they're trying to get rid of that and make all the parts individually serialized and change willy-nilly what they decide the definitions of things are. It's really important for us to keep the conversation going so that we do stay on the right side of things, because that, again, that's the purpose of all of this. We're not trying to skirt the law or do loopholes, as one of my previous episode talks about. Loopholes, really, that's just a talking point thing. All the stuff that us responsible home-built gun builders is doing is all completely legal, and by following the law. The things that they call out as loopholes is us trying to do what they're saying we got to do it by their rules. And it's them rules that might not necessarily be as clear and are a little bit more fluid than rules should be.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where it gets tricky, right? Me being an anarchist and me being somebody who despises the government with every fucking inch of my core. This whole talk about legalities and we're following the law. like that's cute, right? Like that's fine, but at some point we also have to understand that not only is it legal, but it's good, decent human beings doing it. We're not
Yep.
murderers. So I don't care what ultimately I don't care what the legalities say, more so as much as this is not quote unquote again criminals doing this stuff. There's a lot of shit that we all do that is criminal. We speed, we maybe pay taxes, maybe we don't, like shit like that. Like it's all criminal. So we can sit here all day long and debate legal, not legal. At the end of the day, this is honest human beings that are not looking to kill people, that are not looking to murder people. We just want to nerd out. Well, I don't, but like some of you guys want to nerd the fuck
I
out.
was gonna say you've been getting better about it. We're gonna make a nerd of you yet. Like,
So I mean, this is a bunch of fucking nerds that do software shit and CADing and shit that I have no fucking clue what the fucking means, but they needed a space. And it's the 2A and the nerds getting together and just having fun, right? Just like fucking playing bingo, just like playing whatever other game. And that's what's important, right? It's we have to get it out there. We have to make this mainstream so that it gets looked at just like fucking tennis. It gets looked at like just like basketball, like any other game, so that we don't become instant criminals. Because I seriously doubt, let's be honest, that one or two will stop doing it if they make it illegal. But most of us will continue doing this shit, whether it's legal or not, and it's not going to change our intentions. That's from my side of it, right? Not everybody's going to agree on that, but that's so I'm a little more abrasive and a little more aggressive when it comes to this whole legal and shit like that. I couldn't give two shits about the government. So
Yeah, well, that's the one thing too that's so great about, especially the Makers match in particular, is it does bring both sides of that community together into a place that we can come to a common ground, because everybody ain't going to agree on everything.
correct.
That's
Correct.
just part of it. But being able to set them differences aside and focus on what you do agree on to be able to move things forward, that actually takes a lot of work, because everybody wants to talk and say whatever they want online, but very few people want to actually, put forth the action to follow through.
After this, I won't monopolize this too much, but that's just it, right? Is this despite or regardless of how I feel, it really is bringing the, like, we live in a world where laws exist, right? I have to accept that as an anarchist. I have to. I just can't go out there and just do whatever the fuck I want, because there are consequences to it. So there is this bringing this competition, because there's a lot of people at the beginning are like, well, the feds are going to be there and all this shit, which is not true, right? That's opposite of
well,
what
that goes back to the stigma that's been put around it too,
correct,
to where people automatically jump to those
correct,
really severe ends of things.
and those type of people, we could, like, whatever, like, hopefully they come around, but they're not going to be on our side regardless. What we really want to change is the minds of the people that have been lied to for a very long time. The people who watch CNN, the people who watch NBC, the people who watch Vice News and shit like that. The people that are not necessarily anti-gun, but are Democrat, or what people would consider liberals, because liberal doesn't equal anti-gun. They're just not necessarily pro-gun either, right? They're just kind of like, I couldn't give two shits. That's not my thing. We need to change those minds, because those are the people that are voting for these idiots that are in office, and me thinking both sides are idiots. So these are the people who are doing it, and those are the people that we really have. The important thing of making this big and huge and having media there every single year, I couldn't give two shits what media is there, as long as it's media coverage, and we can do the battle shit later, as long as those people are seeing that it's just a bunch of normal everyday people doing this shit and not what they categorize as us. Those are the minds that we need to change.
And also, too, one thing kind of going along with that I did want to point out, especially from like the competitor and participant side of things, it was really awesome seeing, especially coming to the first one, seeing how many different designs there are, seeing some of that, going back to the nerdy stuff, whatever. It's one thing to look at different pictures online or people post this and stuff like that, but seeing stuff in person that just like literally blows your mind, that's the kind of stuff that opens doors to make you want to look at, like someone like me. I haven't done nothing in 3D printing at all. I'm of that old school mindset that I want to do it myself, regardless of what it is. So when it comes to guns, I'm going to build my own guns. I'm going to customize my guns, even if it's not one that I built myself. That's just how I am. I don't leave anything stock. I got to make it my own. And that's one thing that especially the popularity that has been growing in building your own guns, the amount of companies coming out like JSD and other aftermarket companies, there you can literally put something together and never even have an OEM part in it. And the amount of people that showed up to the event is like a whole range of folks. You got different ages, different, it's not your stereotypical like Gummer from Tremors. It's not the gun dude.
He was there though. He was there.
He definitely was there.
Mr. Snow, I think, is what he goes by. I'm not sure.
Yeah, honestly though, I think his armory room might put Gummers to shame.
No, his workshop is phenomenal. I gotta say, I've been up there a couple of times now, and his workshop is it's awesome. But to touch on what you were talking about earlier, like from the printing side of things, getting all the printing nerds together and actually getting to hang out and like show stuff off and get to meet each other in person is just a whole different experience. Because every other sport out there, like you have events, everybody shows up, you do the event, and then you leave. You couldn't do that here. You couldn't do that with what we do. Even the kit build community was starting to get that stigma of, can I bring my 80% to the range? Like if I got too many tool marks on it, is a RSO gonna flag me or get mad at me or something like that?
I've had those questions. Like I've been selling polymer 80s at gun shows, and it's like, can I carry this? Can I take it to the range? I'm like, yeah, do whatever you want with it.
Right.
It's a legal gun.
It's perfectly legal in most areas. I'm not going to try and pretend I know what all the laws are all over the U.S. But
we're in Florida, so
I'm in Florida. I'm free. I'm good. But just from a printer's like point of view, that is bar none the best part of this experience is getting to get together with everybody, meet everybody, hang out, show off, and actually take a look at this stuff. And then from the match perspective, I think a lot of our printing side of the community really learned a lot from the first match. Like the first match we had out there, like people were still trying to slap stuff together like right beforehand. They're sitting there filing, trying to get things to feed right. Maybe these designs were tested, maybe they weren't. This year, the second annual match, I didn't see a lot of that. Pretty much everybody came prepared. They came, everything was tested pretty thoroughly. I think we only had a couple of breaks, mid-match. So I think we learned a lot, not only about like material, but about design. Like, hey, maybe extractors are a good idea to put in your gun design. Maybe that's something we should spend a little extra time making sure that actually works.
That was literally one thing that surprised me so much at the first one is how many different designs didn't even have extractors.
Right. Yeah. So I think as a community, because like you have like gun nerds, right, that know everything about guns, and then you have printer nerds that know everything about printers, but like the overlap of that Venn diagram probably wasn't very huge to start with. I dare say a lot of printing community doesn't really even go to the range that much. Like I'm even one of those. I like building it more than I like shooting it, just perfectly honest. I still love shooting, don't get me wrong, but the building of it is what I get enjoyment out of. But I think that seeing everybody come out and like get to shoot and get to like, trying to do mag swaps in the middle of the match and stuff, that like you saw that light bulb moment for a lot of printers going, hey, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this that we don't necessarily think about when we're looking at it in CAD, So that's just really cool from my side of things, from my perspective as a printer. And rant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. It's all good.
Yeah. Back to Edgar's point about the media coming. I was a little bit nervous the first match, but I'm like, hey, you know what? We got all these other guys here too. They're not just focused on one individual person. Well, I guess Pincus, but he can be the target for a while, I guess. But that totally opened up my eyes to what's possible. That not everything's an attack. Sometimes we can just have a discussion, and I mean, sometimes they are an attack like NBC, but you know, we kind of got to go into it with
not to mention any names, but
yeah, no, not at all. But I've learned a lot just from interacting that way. And then the media this year, they were shocked at the diversity of people that were there. I think the one lady from Newsy, I think, was the organization. She was you could just see on her face, like, looking around, and it's like, man, this is kind of exciting. Like, I've never shot. She's never shot a gun up until, you know, the day after the event. So she had a ton of fun, I think, just from cruising around and talking to all these, you know, weirdos that are that are at the range. I mean, so that's always a ton of fun, and it's nice being able to hopefully change some people's opinion that are, you know, borderline or not quite anti-gun but not pro-gun, and kind of on the fence of why do people think these are dangerous? Why do people think that home-built guns shouldn't be legal? Well, these guys are just normal guys burning up ammo, putting holes through paper, and high-fiving at the end of the day. So it's awesome from that regard, seeing you know, news coverage, you know, that way.
Yeah, and I can confirm that what you was talking about, the media folks that was there this time, you could literally see like the curiosity oozing off of them versus like a lot of like hesitancy and nervousness, so to speak.
But
too.
that's the whole thing. I think what the 2A is lacking, and obviously the nerds that make the guns is lacking, is media training. And that's the problem, is we need to learn how to leverage this, because there's a big difference between like, hey, you will show up to this event and this is what we're going to talk about, and this is how it's going to flow, and this is how we're going to do it. If you watch when Vice was there, and when Newsy was there, and we had some other ones that I was in charge of, Pincus wasn't in charge of, you almost tell them what to do. But it's that builds relationship, as opposed to all of a sudden they hear about something and then you guys don't establish a relationship. Now they can tell the story however the fuck they want. And that's the big problem with the difference in outcome, is when you build a relationship with the reporter. Sometimes you have no choice and the reporter is going to fuck you regardless. But most of the time, if you build that relationship with the media, it's going to work out. I've worked with Vice News. I've been on CNN and Fox News and shit like that. And that's usually the outcome. You build a relationship with the producers, and once or twice, they don't give two fucks about your feelings and how you want the story to come out, or your point of view. They're just going to do what they want. But it's understanding that, you know what, we get that in the 2A community regardless. So learning how to just take the wins and improve on that, that's super important. That's one thing we're lacking in the 2A, is better media education.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
But I just wanted to clarify that I was talking about the actual media folks that was there having the curiosity that you could see, like what Jordan was. And I want to say, I'm not sure if it was the lady that we've been talking about or not, but one of the media ladies actually ended up building her own gun the day after the event, because, you know, those walls and stigmas was took down to the point, you know, that's about as far, you know, the best outcome that we could hope for. And
I'm assuming she was a Florida resident.
No.
Yeah,
You allowed
she did
to
all
do
of her
that?
own work, and they took care of it. Yeah.
Yep. But that's all I was getting at. And what we've kind of been touching on most of the show so far is it's all about getting that word out to be able to have, you know, that alternative for people to get the information and not necessarily even to convince them, but give them the actual real info. They can be aware of it to decide, hey, you know, this might not be what I grew up hearing about.
Well, and that was one of the things that, just on a personal note, like that was one of the things that I told the guys I would, you know, hey, I'll throw my face on this because I think it's important, hoping that they would follow along and be more comfortable with it. And, you know, the Vice article, the Vice News story that we had from the first Gunmakers match actually came out remarkably fair, in my opinion. So I'm happy I did it, and I'm happy that we continue to have media there, because I think a lot, especially in the printing community, we see this all over the place, like, or just in the building community in general, the home builder crew, the DIY crew. people are just automatically dismissive of any media at all. And a lot of those people that are automatically dismissive might actually be a very good representative for the community if they will speak to them. So what you end up left with is people that don't like it or don't necessarily have nice things to say to them. You know, they go on camera and they just start bashing immediately. And I think that's where we end up with a lot of this stigma. So I think we do need to encourage more people to actually, cowboy up, so to speak, and actually come out and talk to those reporters, because knock on wood, we haven't actually had any bad press coverage of any of the Gunmakers matches that I'm aware of. So
now from the left media, it's all been from the 2A
internal.
I know, right? Isn't that the irony? Like, it's all coming from inside, which there's a lot.
Well, Crowder did a show where he took, I don't know, like a half dozen liberals, gun haters to the range, and it's like you could see, I think one of the 5 was like, "I'm never touching a gun again." But 5 of the 6 were like, "That was fun. I had a good time." You saw the aha thing go off in their head. And even my own daughter, who's been around guns since she's been 5 years old and trained on how to not use them or use them and what to do if she sees a gun, she's susceptible to TV and movies saying that they're bad. And, she gets a little weird about it. She's actually a good shot. But she's getting programmed by, the media out there.
Yep. And that's one thing I can attest to too. Growing up, there was a lot of them misinformation that I was victim to, and even getting into guns a little bit later in life as I did, there was a lot of them, "Oh, it's supposed to be this way" type things that come to find out is totally different than, things. Yeah, there's like a lot of rules and regulations and laws and all of that stuff, but a lot of them talking point type things are just that, talking points. And it almost is like it instills a fear in folks for not wanting to pursue pursue gun stuff and stuff like that, because it might be, they think that it's too much of a hassle.
Definitely. Well, Garrett, you've had a lot to say. You should probably quiet down up there, man.
I think you guys have been handling it pretty well. Regarding the media, I mean, I guess I can comment on the fact that, of course, our company has had an interesting relationship with the media over the years. I don't think it's quite pertinent here, but of course, you can benefit a lot from even negative media interactions, right? You can get an interview that they think makes you look really bad, and they think attacks you, and it turns out to simply be a good way to advertise yourself. And that's something that we benefited from over the years. I don't necessarily see that happening here, but again, like I think Xander, you said that there hasn't actually been any negative media about the Makers match so far.
Yeah, and that's not a challenge, by the way. If there's any media watching that,
it's really hard.
At the same time, though, like we've all said, we're all, regular, morally sound folks, to where we're not going to be doing a bunch of sketchy crap out there for them to be picking up, to be able to be pointing out. Everybody even though everybody did kind of like come from like all kinds of backgrounds and different places, people traveling from all over the country, everybody, for the most part, like handle themselves, pretty respectfully and stuff. And it goes a long way to show, we are normal folks. This ain't a bunch of, gang banging criminals out here building guns, just to get away with it. And that's one thing that I always try to point out. Criminals ain't going to be out there building their own guns in the first place. The point of a criminal is they're not going to obey the law. They're wanting the easy way out. They're going to do the path of least resistance, and whatever's the cheapest that they got to put the least amount of work into, work and money. So stealing a gun or getting someone else to get a gun for them is a lot easier than them taking the time to try to get a gun put together themselves. And number one, they probably don't even know what the crap they're doing. Even if they did put it together, they want something that's more for the show.
Yeah, and I think Pincus did a great job of giving that light bulb moment to Keegan when he was doing the Vice article. He's sitting there like, thinking that you can just pull this thing off the printer and away you go. And I think like 3 hours later of filing, he's like, maybe this isn't the easiest way to do this.
Well,
Right,
if you
yeah,
print
shoddy
Rails up
parts
with
kit
tree
too,
support,
so-
Sorry, you guys went at the same time. I didn't
Rich was saying something about Rails down, and what'd you say?
We're not going into the Rails down, Rails up scenario right now. No,
I pointed out that Keegan had a shoddy parts kit too, so
well, those part suppliers, they're sketchy people out there.
that's right.
The media relationship with firearms is, obviously no one will be surprised to hear that it's not based on facts, but it's based primarily on aesthetics, right? It's based on how things look. It's based on how things sound. It's meant to create a culture of fear, as it were. But when you go to the Maker's Match, you don't get those aesthetics, and not just because everyone's friendly. Just like the firearms themselves do not look like normal firearms, right? They're often brightly colored. They're not scary black guns. It's almost an easier sell, I think, to sell the media on 3D printed guns when they look like this and they have this kind of aesthetics, and when the people who are operating them are as they are, versus trying to sell them on normal firearms. So it's going to be, I think, very hard for them to do a genuine attack piece on something like the Maker's Match.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at IMA running around with his Lego colored, PCC going, oh man, that guy, he's pretty scary, and he does a great job of making sure that his guns are super unique and all very colorful. So that's why I'm calling him out. He's going to get mad at me later, but yeah, his guns are always super colorful. It's all these reds and yellows and blues and always doing something crazy. So I definitely agree with you there. I think it just doesn't give off that spooky, ooh, scary gun guy vibe, right? You don't have this super like FBI style tacked out, AR-15 with lasers and all the movie quality scary stuff, So
Right.
I definitely agree with you on that point.
I think there's also a sense in which, when I talk to people who do firearms training, they'll often mention how a significant part of the apprehension for people who are newer to firearms is simply a question of how does it even work, right? Like, until they actually understand how it functions, they're not necessarily comfortable using it. So once again, the idea of you're going to get to make this thing yourself and you'll know exactly how it works before you ever have to worry about shooting it. Is once again,
that's a big deal. That's like I was doing training and I had an AR-9 and the primer popped out and got under the trigger group and the gun jammed. I went back to my hotel room that night. I switched to another gun and I took it apart. Pushed out all the pins, the trigger pin, hammer pin, figured out what was wrong, and I was back and running. And when you build a gun, you have that knowledge, which is fantastic.
Yep. And that's one thing too that I can also speak to from like personal experience. The Mrs. SwampTalk has been talking since the first match about wanting to build her own gun for exactly that same reason. She's talking about wanting to build a gun so that she knows everything in and out of that before she shoots it or whatever, to where if anything malfunctions, she knows the way everything's supposed to work beforehand to know what's not doing right, and to build that confidence with shooting. And that's something that is a big advantage from doing it yourself for newer shooters, and especially women or timid shooters specifically. Not being sexist here.
I was going to say, man, you're going to get yourself canceled.
But timid folks, people that might be on that fence, kind of, not quite sure because all they've seen is the scary guns, gun go boom, oh my gosh. But then when they see, hey, there's all these things in place to where this ain't going to go off on its own. This has to happen, this has to happen, and this has to happen before that bullet's going to go off and come out the end of the barrel. And that again goes to fighting that
stigma,
misinformation, stigma, and all of that.
So in this sense, the Maker's Match and 3D printing or gun CAD events like it are almost not only just a way into gun CAD generally, but perhaps a way to advertise firearms themselves to the world.
Yes, I can agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been at the range one day or another where we're standing next to somebody that does not know how their gun works, does not know how to clear a jam, does not know how, and it makes you nervous.
Yeah.
So yeah, back to your point. If you built it, you know how it works. You know how to take it apart. You know how to safely disassemble it. You know where things might go wrong. And that there again, training. That's Edgar's whole thing, right? Is training, making sure that people understand and know how to use firearms. And the Guns for Everyone group does an excellent job of making sure that everybody is educated, or working as hard as they can on getting everybody through some training. But But yeah, no, definitely. I was just thinking back to my last range trip where I had some guy that just bought a gun. I don't know, it's stovepiped or something, and he was sitting there trying to get it to unlock basically because it was all locked up, and he's waving it around. I'm like, where are the RSOs? So I ended up actually having to help him. But sorry, that ADD, man, it kicks in at any time.
No, well, that's a good segue to what we was talking about, like you said about the match itself too. That gives you them opportunities to kind of bridge that gap to be
not only educating all of it, but other gun people. Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, it gives everybody the chance to have that educational moment to share, them tips with someone. Even if something like that a lot of us consider basic firearms handling stuff, it's not always basic knowledge, even for folks that do go out and get a gun, first-time shooters especially. Because yes, there's an owner's manual that comes with every single gun, but how many folks actually read that manual? And there's a lot of...
Wait. You read manuals?
Yeah. But and even in them manuals, there's a lot of that basic info that isn't necessarily covered in there. A lot of the gun counter folks, at typical gun shops, ain't necessarily wanting to take the time to go over that stuff with people. You're mainly there to make sure, okay, this person isn't crazy. They're not gonna, they're at least going to be able to safely take care of this and not do something totally wild and unsafe, picking up and Elmer Fudd looking down the barrel right at the counter type of stuff, But beyond that, they're just wanting to make the sale. I mean, yeah, you're going to have times where you're going to have extra customer service and stuff like that, but for the most part, that's not what they're there for. And a lot of folks, especially newer folks that don't know, that they should look into this stuff, don't look into some of the different training or different educational opportunities to improve their gun knowledge. Whereas someone that comes from the building it themselves, you have all that from the get-go because you got to know that or you ain't going to be able to get it put together.
I love the dead air.
Sorry.
That was great. So from the standpoint of Guns for Everyone National, right? This gun makers match, not to switch it up on you, because I have no fucking clue where we were going with that, but so you can sway me if you need to. But this year, improvements from last year, this year was a lot more streamlined. Like Xander had mentioned, like people came prepared. People we're not gonna fuck around. We're gonna show up. We're gonna do what we have to do. I think we ended on time. Like everything was basically right when it had to happen. Lunch happened when it had to happen. We left one range to go to another. The only hiccup was the last minute change of venue, which everybody was I'd say everybody except one fucking person was didn't give two shits about the change of venue. So that was great. Everything went smoothly. I think next year we're going to learn from the one or two tweaks that we have to make, and I think it's really more from the admin side, right? From getting the website a little bit more streamlined and communication there a little bit more efficient. A lot of people think it's just very easy. Well, just fucking do it. Like, no, like there's a lot of shit on the technical side, on the back end that needs to happen a certain way in order for it to. I mean, I'm talking to a bunch of nerds, so you guys should fucking know how. Like, it's not as easy as just like, oh, just fucking add a code here and everything's fucking dandy. Like It all has to flow, but that's shit that we learned for next year is how to streamline it a little bit more efficiently, and more effectively as well. So we don't have to do so much running around and emailing and shit like that. And then we also have to educate the people not to be so fucking paranoid. If you registered, you fucking registered, right? Like if if it took the money out of your bank account when you registered, like you're good. Like we don't need you to email us 300 times. Let us know. So, and a lot of that has to do, again, back to the admin stuff, just communicating with folks from the beginning, like send them a security blanket or some shit, and like.
Yeah, and I think to your credit, Edgar, I think you took most of that on your own. So I'm more than happy to help you out with that moving forward, so that you can have a little bit more nerd in there to help with that piece. So
yeah, because usually my attitude is like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to tell you. Like,
no, I've never noticed that. That's never.
Yeah, never. Yeah,
that is weird. I'm just seeing that now. Yeah.
Yeah, just now coming out. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that's one thing I noticed too from the first event to this event, just how much smoother everything was. Even the RSOs and stuff kind of handled themselves a little more. Like we had mentioned before, the first one, everybody was kind of last minute running around. Even some of the organizers was still.
Oh, they were fucking legit.
You know,
this
not
year.
sure
like
what was
RSOs
going on,
were
but
on
it was on point.
Yeah,
and like you had mentioned. Pincus mentioned at the very beginning, hey, y'all, you know, we got this time to this time. We got all these people here. Everybody's got to work together for us to be able to pull that off. And like you said, everybody was out of there within, I think it was 5 minutes of the time that we were supposed to be leaving.
Yeah, no, everybody did awesome. The volunteer crew did great. I'm really hoping we can keep learning from here, because just like a lot of our competitors, this was their first time competing. I think this was a lot of most of us. This was our first time trying to run an event even close to this. Rob and I were joking about that, you know, after the match, like, hey, we're getting better at this, you know. So I'm hoping from here it just keeps to improve moving forward. And next year will be even bigger and better, and I'm hoping we can even build up the regionals a little bit more, make those even bigger and better. I'm hoping to actually attend some of those this year. Last year I didn't get to go to any of the regionals, but I'm hoping I can make that trip out to where those are this year, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think some people are still skeptical of the whole concept, but you know, it just keeps getting bigger. The word of mouth is spreading everywhere. People are excited about it. I mean, I got people asking me when's the next one. So I'm like, give me a week. You know, Rob and I keep joking about give me a week, like a week minimum before we even start talking about that. But I'm excited because I think that the tide is finally shifting on all of this stuff that we've been talking about. So,
and from the sponsor standpoint, like I'm curious. I don't want to take over your show, but like I'm certainly curious from DD and JSD. Like how that's important to you guys, because obviously we couldn't have done it without you guys at all in any way, shape, or form. It helps pay for lunches and the volunteer, make sure that they're able to get there and shit like that. Like it's a lot on the back end, and if it wasn't for the sponsors, like there's no fucking way we could ever do this. So super appreciative of Firearms Policy Coalition, DD, JSD, a lot of acronyms. There's like, I'll just end it there because there's a few more, and I don't want to forget one and then fucking get yelled at for it. But so like from your guys' point of view, from your guys' perspective, like how like that importance of the Gunmakers match, because all of a sudden it just popped up and it's just like there's a new opportunity here.
So I can comment on that. Yeah. The first Gunmakers match, which I was also fortunate enough to attend, I thought was really valuable as a meetup for all of the GunCAD people, right? For the people who in the GunCAD community, it is incredibly useful and good for people to get that kind of face time. That's what I think was the main takeaway from the first Gunmakers match. The second one, we of course had that as well, but like you've been saying, I want to reiterate just how much more smoothly this was run. Having competed in other matches before, including some major matches, you know, this looked a lot more like a proper professional match. And so in addition to just getting all the GunCat people getting FaceTime with each other, you also got a really good representation of the community for the public, and so it definitely well worth the sponsorship.
Yeah, we. Oh no, sorry. Go ahead, Jordan. ADD.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were a sponsor too, and I wasn't sure.
I mean, Aussie does. Are we cool? That is technically a sponsor. We do provide the volunteers, but no, I wasn't going to speak on that at all.
You're like, okay, Garrett spoke. Fuck Jordan.
No. Seriously, like, squirrel. Just go ahead.
Oh man, no, we love it. We used to really try to pay attention to where our dollars were going and stuff. And the last couple of years, I've just been like, man, I just want to do whatever's fun. If we go, like SHOT Show is not really that fun, but it's kind of one of those things you got to go to, or any of those types of events. But this one's fun, man. We get to see a ton of people, see some of our stuff being used or not. That's okay too. But it's kind of like, maybe cliche to say, but we're giving back to the community that's supported us from, my living room couch now to being able to do this kind of stuff and bring some of our crew out too. And they get a little bit of a break from the monotony of, their everyday life cycle at the shop and stuff. So we love it. We'd like to have more of these, more than just one a year. If we could, that'd be great. We're going to see if we can get some here in Pennsylvania where we're at. So I don't have to travel as far, but
and Colorado, so I don't have to travel as far.
Yeah.
Well,
everything happens
y'all
on the fucking
said
East Coast. Like, we need to bring shit to the West Coast because you guys fucking get everything that's fun. Every fucking thing that's fun.
No, if you fix the West Coast, maybe just go
what the fuck? Whatever.
I'm kind of just in the middle, so I have a little leeway, but I'd love to get something down here on the Gulf Coast going too.
Yeah. Can I just real quickly? I just want to point out that the 2-time champion is in the chat, Matt Abrams.
Hey, that's a monster. Monster.
He was basically running through that course. I don't know that he missed.
As Rob would say, moving like a human. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, you took three.
There was a couple of times where I was watching him and I was having to question: is this dude half cyborg or something? I mean, what's the deal here?
And he's a gracious champion too. So
he is. Yeah, he's one of the most. We got the opportunity to go grab some beers after, and it was cool getting to talk to him. He's a really cool guy. Yeah. So there again, everybody that comes is a nice person. Like there's really nobody that showed up that I wouldn't go and have a beer with. Most of the actually, so funny story, before the guys all murder me, we had the Gamer House, which was just an Airbnb that like half of the Are We Cool Yet people showed up to, and that's where we stayed. And there was a car accident right outside. So you have all of these GunCat nerds running outside because half of them actually have medical training. Like we have a couple of EMTs in the house, a couple of military and Leo, like former Leo guys. And so they actually went out and they were the first responders for this accident, like in their gear and stuff, some of them still. So that was pretty cool. So we actually managed to slip in some community outreach in there too. So, building that name brand out there in the St. Augustine community.
Yeah, I just want to point out that Matthew's also a fellow JDM nerd. So,
all right.
He is.
I'm Korean now, my stinger, but
hey, we was following along with one of them for quite a long ways on our trip, and now the missus is making me look into them some more.
I like it.
Get a G70. It's cheaper. Same car.
That's definitely good to know. Yeah, see, here's another one of my Mississippi bros talking about how about we have a regionals here.
Yeah, I mean, if y'all have enough people that you think that there's an interest, and you have a range nearby that's friendly or you think is friendly, reach out. We'll, I'm sure. I'm saying reach out, but we're definitely going to have Pincus, talk to them because Edgar and I are so good with words. But yeah, no, we can definitely make that happen, and I think we need more regionals, and we need to blow those up a little bit more, get them bigger and better. So,
yep, and I'm glad that we kind of are naturally gravitating towards this now, but we're already starting to cover some of the stuff moving forward, which is the next topic I was wanting to get into, is where things go from here and get y'all's take on some of that stuff. Whether not necessarily like the next makers match, but for the community and for this goal that we're trying to have of getting positive publicity and all that stuff out there, not just regional matches and the next match and stuff like that, but what would y'all like to see coming forward?
From the Guns for Everyone perspective, from my personal perspective, I think what we need to get better at is having conversations with the people that a lot of people stigmatize as liberals, right? Like, we need those people on our side. I'm not talking about the anti-gun, the people that are very vocal about hating guns. I'm talking about the people that don't say shit about anything. Maybe they're a Democrat because
them on the fence type
whatever,
folks.
for whatever other reason other than the gun shit, right? Like, we need the people that are people that, and even if they're not on the fence, right? Like, even if they're not on the fence, we need to have a better conversation with those individuals, because usually what they hear is, oh, you're a Democrat, fuck you, you fucking liberal, we don't like you, you piece of shit, right? And that's not necessarily the vibe that we want to give out, because they can potentially be a friend to the community. Where, like, we want more people out there to enjoy these rights. We can have the conversation about the other political and social issues later on down the line. But we need to solidify is these relationships with individuals. And for me as an anarchist, I see the shit from both sides, right? Like, I see the liberals attacking the conservatives and vice versa. We see this shit all the time. And I attack both. I tell them they're all fucking retarded.
So you're just saying you hate everyone, is what you're
pretty
saying
much,
here, right?
pretty much. However, we need to unify. However, we still need to do a better job in the gun community at outreaching, because yelling at politicians has its time and its place, right? Like lobbying has a time and place. Voting for people, in my opinion, is a waste of time. But for a lot of you guys, it has a time and place. Going to talk to people that otherwise wouldn't be involved in this community is really where this shit's at. Is really where this grassroots is needs to focus its attention. Right. One of the things that I love about several organizations, NSSF does this a lot, but they're not the only ones that does this. Is during SHOT Show, they'll go on the strip and they'll say, hey, they'll just grab random people, let's go to the range, kind of like one of you guys was talking about, taking them to the range and just taking them shooting, and that's it. Oh, Crowder was the one that you guys were talking about,
right?
That's what we need to do, is better outreach outside of the 2A community, get outside of the echo chamber, and talk to people that otherwise we wouldn't. And I understand that's going to put you in a lot of uncomfortable spots, because you're going to talk to people that politically don't see eye to eye, maybe on economics, on abortion, on marriage, on whatever the fuck it is. But like, if we're gun people, and if we truly believe that guns are what maintain our liberty, then in my opinion, that's probably the most important conversation to have. And then we can hash out the other shit later on.
Yep.
No,
I can agree with that.
All of that is awesome. My dreams are much smaller right now. I would just love to I would love to see like a DIY section at SHOT Show. Honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes,
that would be
that would
cool.
be awesome.
And
which that honestly, that's what got me into doing gun content media stuff in the first place, is wanting to document some of the, the higher end craftsmanship that goes into some of this DIY guns and stuff like that, because there's not as much like factory produced hand done stuff no more. Everything's injection molded, forged, this and that, and just like assembly line type of stuff with, questionable quality control. And the folks that actually have the skills to know how to do them different, building yourself type of stuff, that stuff ain't getting passed down so much, except to them small groups of communities that's into that, whether it be stock making, whether like the 3D printing. One thing great about this is getting some of that internet stuff into real life, getting some of the being able to see some of that stuff. And that was one of the biggest things with the match that I seen, and that don't even have nothing to do with the match itself, is the amount of folks, not just sharing ideas, but saying, oh, hey, they did this a little bit differently. I could see how that could apply to what I've been doing, and literally helping each other out instead of being some of the older school type stuff. No, I can't let you know my secrets. This is the way I'm doing it. You do your own thing. And that openness just helps everybody grow.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it's funny how people feel about their knowledge in whatever field it may be. I mean, I experienced that in the aviation community, where the guy, the old timer aviation mechanic, he was like, I don't do computers, you don't do airplanes. And I told him, I said, hey, Irv, you aren't born knowing everything. And if you don't share that information, nobody's going to know about it. And after that, he had a whole different tune. And I think that's the important thing, is we've got to be able to, I've watched people that I know from the gun community, one side of them. Like, I know their YouTube persona, and I'll Trey from Aries Armory. I always thought he was just some sort of badass. And then I see him out on the range, with somebody like it's their first time holding a gun, and he's spending, 45 minutes with them, making sure they understand everything and that they're not intimidated by some tactical looking dude. And I think that's the big deal, is that we've got to humble ourselves to other people, so that we're not intimidating them, and that they feel comfortable around us. Look, a gun is a scary thing, and it's easy to get on the afraid side. Like, hey, watch out. I don't want to know about that. Or I'm scared of that, or I'm afraid to ask because you look scary.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of ties into what Edgar was talking about earlier about the media side of things. Making things more approachable. It goes the same way, like with what you said about new shooters and stuff. Not having that standoffish type of presence. Not necessarily. Yeah, it's one thing to train how you're going to be or whatever, but you don't necessarily got to go to the range in your full gear, full kitted out every time. That's be approachable, and when someone does ask you, don't be a dick about it. Take a couple minutes.
Well, I like what Mr. Snow says, is he's like, hey, he wants this dad looking dude to be the representative for 3D printing. Like, he's a normal family man going to Boy Scout meetings and the whole shooting match, and just
That's
have
why
this.
we keep Zero around, though, because Zero, there's no more disarming fellow than Zero. Like, if anybody's met Bobby, like, he's one of the most disarming guys you'll ever meet. Not that I don't
make it rain, champ.
Mr. Snow and I
make it rain, champ.
Make it rain, champ. He is the gun cat grandpa. He's not even that old, but that's what we call him. So,
now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think there was a single, like, when you think of a gun guy, right, like a big jack tatted up guy.
Yeah,
I don't think there was a single person like that at the Gamer House.
No, definitely not. We're all super chill.
Yeah, so there's nobody really scary.
We even had a few people, because the Gamer House is agnostic. We don't care what team you're on. We don't care what group you belong to. None of that. We had people from every 3 or 4 different gun CAD groups hanging out and chilling. You were there. You came by. I think Jordan's secretly terrified of coming by. It's okay. We'll work on him. But yeah, no, everybody's just goofing off and having a good time. Like, in person, everybody's having a great time and just hanging out and nerding out over pick a thing. But yeah, definitely no real hardcore, like, I don't know what you would think of as a traditional 2A gun guy,
But what is that? Like, what is a traditional 2A gun guy?
I don't know, but I guess pick one of those media representatives.
Because Jordan is a traditional 2A gun guy.
But if you put Jordan in a tack vest, he'd be kind of scary.
And I think that's what we also have to change is that, because even within us, where we're stigmatizing what a typical 2A guy is, but yet here's Jordan. He's a typical 2A guy. He's slinging fucking gun crack all day long.
All that heat.
all
All that heat.
For
all
Lord
of it.
War.
I'm an instructor. I don't do the tag vest shit. My business partner Isaac, he's just a regular ass goofy white dude. So it is just so I think we do it to ourselves a lot as well. Like there is a lot of memeable like instructor zero type individuals out there. But it's far more just regular ass people that because Pinkas he's old as shit, like a grandpa looking dude. If you see Pinkas, you're like, oh, that's not a badass dude. Like that's just fucking it's just Pinkas,
Happy.
right? Yeah, like it's just
Yeah, we did have a few people in full kit, but even they didn't look terrible.
but it was a joke, right? Like it was
right.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
it was because we were at competition. I'm sure
Exactly.
Deviant, and I only knew Deviant from the lockpick and lawyer videos.
right. No, he's cool. He's big in the DevOps.
Yeah, but he did it
Yeah.
kind of as a LARPing
Well,
shit. It wasn't like
that's
this
what I
is
was just gonna say.
yeah.
What he did, he put everything together like as the whole
No,
package.
it was perfect.
The
Yeah.
guns that he built was literally time period, correct for aesthetics and all of that stuff, and then did the whole get up for that, late 60s, 70s Vietnam era type thing, and it went the extra mile to make a dang 3D Vietnam style 3D printed patch just for the match too.
Well, and it takes a lot of guts to run a 1911 in a match, let alone a DIY 1911. So
Yeah. Or in real life in general. I mean,
or just at all. Yeah.
We're gonna have all the boomers start yelling at us.
Dude, so one thing real quickly that I realized at dinner after the match, a couple of us went out to dinner. Swamp, you were there. Snow, Garrett. That I realized I'm now a boomer because there's a lot of this segment of things and memes and TikToks and the Facebooks that I just don't get. So I've discovered that I am a boomer. So
the cutoff.
And that didn't make me feel
boomer
too
code
good,
there,
considering when you was talking, I only realized that you ain't but just a couple years older than me too. So that means I'm getting there too.
Yeah, you're right there.
I'm just going to shut up about my age then.
That's funny.
But yeah, we've been over for an hour now, so I definitely appreciate y'all coming on and glad that y'all brought y'all's unique perspectives to things. That's why I wanted to get y'all to come on here. And to wrap things up, we'll just go ahead and go around the room and let y'all give any final thoughts you have and let folks know where to find you to follow up on some more of the stuff that y'all do, because all of y'all individually do some pretty awesome work for the community as well as collectively coming together to put on this awesome thing of the Makers Match. And this time we'll go backwards. We'll start with Jordan and then work our way around.
Cool. So I'm Jordan, jsdsupply.com. Check us out on our new Instagram page. NBC decided to get that shut down for us, so we got it back up. Suck it. And Facebook and Twitters. And I want to give a shout out to all of the sponsors. I pulled the page up here. Firearms Policy Coalition, Polymer 80, DefCAD, JSD Supply, Print Your 2A, 1776 Supply Co. They had some awesome Cerakoted kits there. 2A 3D, Parts Dispensed, Ghost Gunner, On Mission Arms, Ancient City Shooting Range, and Diode Art and Design. Then Aussie Guns for Everyone and 2AO put the match on. So
nice.
Shout out to all those folks.
Awesome. Appreciate the shout out so that we don't have anybody getting mad that we didn't mention them.
That's right. They're all
there.
there.
Like Edgar mentioned, everybody
We got a lot of them. It's a good problem to have, but there are a lot of them,
Yeah,
those are all some.
Well, that goes to show too. So many folks coming together to pitch in is a pretty big deal, especially when some of them don't necessarily have anything to go with each other for, like, say, for a different range day event or something like that. You might not get some of these same groups together either. And then on that note, let's go over to Edgar.
Gunsforeveryone.com, gfenational.com. Check us out. Become an instructor. Talk to us about holding regional competitions. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's pretty short and sweet. And then we'll go ahead and go to Xander.
Oh, all right. I'm Kron on pretty much everything, but please go follow the Gunmakers match on everything too, because that's where you're going to get all the news and updates on when the next one's going to be, and that is awesome. And please go follow all of our sponsors because they really do make it all happen, and we love them. So, also awcy.arms on basically every platform for the team stuff, team releases, trailers, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all check out the Are We Cool Yet crew. They got a lot of stuff going on. And go ahead and bring it back to Garrett.
But yeah, actually, I'll reiterate what Kron said, which is I think everyone should go and check out Are We Cool Yet and the other GunCat groups and start getting into this. If you want to check Defense Distributed out, of course, we're still doing a lot of legal work in this space. That's never really stopped. And if you want to support that, we have a website called Legio. That's ddlegio.com. You can sign up for a membership there to help support that legal work, among many other things. You can sign up there at DefCat as well. Also, we did just recently get a new Instagram page, which is, I think, defense_distributed is, I think, the name. So go check that out as well.
About time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while to find who to tag y'all on the Instagram post earlier.
Yeah, we got shut down I don't know how many years ago, and only finally have we started it up again.
Oh yeah, I've been bugging them all nonstop for like days now. So
yeah, that's one thing that was mentioned on another podcast earlier. Someone was talking about shadow bans left and right and stuff, and it's getting past shadow banning to straight up just looking at it one morning and you're just gone. But one more thing before I kick it off to Rich for the final thoughts. I want to echo Deviant's comments he made at the award ceremony at the end, that this is something that we have to put the word out. We have to share this with other folks. And because it is literally in the crosshairs for the anti-gunners or whatever you want to call it, that's literally what it is. They're trying to take this away from us, regardless of which side of the aisle politically it comes from. And like he had mentioned, he's in Washington. They literally banned building your own guns, effective as I think it was June or July this summer sometime. That could be coming to anywhere else. And what we all know already with the upcoming rule changes from the ATF about frames and receivers and do-it-yourself stuff and pistol braces and all that stuff. The only way that we can fight any of that is keeping putting the word out there so that folks will speak up about it. You know, wake folks up and get that fire in people to take that next step to actually do something instead of just, writing a comment online. And after that, I'll get off my soapbox and kick it over to you, Rich.
Oh, well, thank you. And hey, thanks for having me on. It's I know most of you here, so it's a real pleasure to be on with you guys. I really wanted to be at the Makers match this year. Unfortunately, business took me elsewhere, but I'm hoping to make it next year. And boy, I'm a little nervous being on the show all by myself here, on somebody else's show at least. So I'm Flying Rich, flyingrich.com, youtube.com/flyingrich, and you probably often see me on John Crump Live. So I'm his co-host and producer, and just a 3D printing nerd also.
Awesome. Yeah, and on that note, I'll give a final shout out to all the folks out there in the chat. Thank y'all for sticking around. Thanks for pointing out some pretty good comments, even though some of y'all was kind of, being annoying. But that makes
some of the chat was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you get good stuff, and then you get annoying stuff. But that's one thing I'm really proud of, that all the viewers and stuff out there so far from my shows and stuff, I haven't had none of y'all actually really getting out of line. And when someone does, actually act up, y'all kind of get on, keep it in check yourself. And it's because of y'all viewers that we do any of this in the first place. Otherwise, we just talking to ourselves, looking at a computer, looking at a camera.
That's fun too.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on who you are. But on that note, I'll say y'all be good and check us out next week.